You are back to Bruno's Appliance. I am Tony, still the one and only, and we're going to be working on this GE washer that was a no spin. We're going to run through the diag on it and see what it comes up. We do have two error codes, and we'll be able to show you here in just a moment on what's going on with it. With this app that GE has and the modular that technicians can get, it allows you to plug into the unit and see anything that's going on with it. So we know the date of the manufactured of when they made it was 23 of March, and then it also gives you the amount of runtime. So it's been 2 years, 206 days that this thing has been plugged in, running, doing cycles and everything. Model number for this is going to be the Golf Foxtrot Whiskey 550 Sahara Nevada 4 Whiskey Whiskey. And the WW doesn't matter because it just means it's white. But with this tool, we're able to do diagnoses and see our fault codes. So we're going to jump into here to see what our fault codes are on this thing. And we have UI, no power, and I know why that is. And this is our main one right here that we were looking at. Inverter power and door lock, door lock motor. So it tells you how many days ago it took place, what was taking place with it. Basically, we're just worried about our inverter power, not the door lock, because I know the door locks. User interface, that happened yesterday because I had it unplugged. So we're going to clear those codes because they don't matter right now. Alright, you can also check for firmware updates. There's no firmware. Again, there's your model number. So we're going to go back and we're going to jump into the diag here. We're going to hit a diag test, enter service mode, and we're going to hit a spin action. And then while it goes through the process of it, what it's going to do, it's going to give you, it's going to run the drain pump as it normally would, but then here on this graph, it's going to show you what it wants the spin basket to get to and what it actually reached. If it doesn't, then what we're going to do is just break into testing to make sure that we have power going to our inverter. We obviously do, just because the basket is spinning, even though it doesn't want to pick up on here. Then we're going to test the windings on the motor, because within the motor is your speed sensor. So if the speed sensor on the motor is bad, then you have to replace the whole motor. But if our windings are good, then it's not going to be the speed sensor on the motor for a couple seconds. And it's not even picking up that it's wanting to spin. So, well, we're going to stop that. We know our door lock works, our drain pump works. Now it's just going through and testing for power. Alright, so now we got to dig into this thing. So if you have one of these and you're like, okay, how the heck do I take it off? Because there's nothing holding the lid on the back, and I don't see any screws anywhere. Well, that's where we have to come up in the front here. And when you remove your dispenser's right in here, you'll have 1, 2, 3 here, 3 screws here, and then 2 on this side, down on the bottom, 1 right there and 1 there. Once you get that, pull out on this thing and pop it that way. And then, bam, we are right here to where you have 1, 2, 3 screws that would hold the top on, and then pop that off. So now you're into it to find the tech sheet that tells you how to take that all apart. So now that you've got that off and you're still trying to figure out how to take the top panel off, you can get to the tech sheet. Here is the tech sheet, and then as soon as you open this up, reading the wiring diagram to figure out where the power is coming from our main board to our inverter motor, our inverter board, and we will go from there. Alright, so once you have your tech sheet out and your wiring diagram, you're going to be looking for the inverter board, and this one over here is your main board. So we're looking for power going to our inverter, which is going to be the J101 connector, and then we have 3 lines here. Well, technically 4, but on the connector on the main board there's only 3 that you're going to. So you're going to follow it down to your main board, and you are looking for J506, and then we're testing between our AC line, which is black, and then our white one, which is going to be our neutral, and those come back to our inverter board as well. So right now as we sit here, we have it bouncing around a little bit at 44, but as soon as we put it into a drain cycle and hit the start button on here, we're going to see when this picks up and that the board is sending 120 to the inverter board whenever it wants to start spinning. And there we go. Now it's a constant 119, 120, and we don't have any issues with our main board sending power to our inverter board that's here. So the next step is to test, like I said, our windings on the motor to make sure that they're picking up. And within our motor we have TCOs. Those are called thermal cutoffs. So if the motor gets too hot, they will trip and then it won't work. But we're going to test all three windings to make sure they're within our range of right here motor windings. We're ohming it out per line, so we should have 3.5 ohms of resistance, give or take a little bit between. Okay, so now that we've tested for power from our main board down to our inverter board, which is hiding down on the side here, and they make it challenging to get to, we gotta get to the back of it and pull this back cover off. Once we get this back cover off, you're able to access your motor and then your inverter board. Now this is where it gets challenging because your inverter board is down back over here. And your connections are going to be the white right there. I think they're blue, white, and red that are coming there. I don't know if you can see that or not. So they're right over here, and we're going to test between each one of those. There are 3 phases that they call A, B, and C, and that's what we're doing next. Your meter set to the ohms right there, the ohm setting. We'll get checking for continuity, and this meter reads ohms at the same time. Most meters do that all at the same setting. So now we're going to try to go between these phases. For me, it's easier to see through this little hole that the shipping bolts go through, so I can see what we're getting into. And we're going to do red to white, and we get 3.6, so we're right on for that phase. And now we're doing red to the blue, and again we're 3.6 right on. So now we're going to leave that into the blue one there, and we're going to do blue to white, which is a lot easier said than done. And we have 3.5 on our own reading there. So our windings are good on this motor. And because we're here, we're going to see if our speed sensor actually picks anything up, which I think it should. Get in here. And we are getting a reading. It is good. So that just leaves one thing. The pesky inverter board, which is right there. I don't know if you can see that, or maybe go through this little hole here and you can see it. Now to get to the inverter board so we can remove it and replace it with the WH22X38837. But you're going to want to check your model, because it doesn't mean that they're all the same just because you have one that looks similar to this. So check to make sure your model number is the same on that. So this is our inverter board. We have to get down there and take it out of the housing because GE is cheap and they won't give you a housing for it. All right, you're going to need 2 things. Screw gun, okay? and a pair of needle nose pliers. We're going to get to it. So now we're going to dig into this. We already got these bolts screwed out, unscrewed, and now we can pop this off, tap it over to the side. We're good to go. Now we unplug that, and this guy comes out, so this is out of the way. Again, depending on your model, you might have to take this knob off because they like to hide a bolt back there that holds this to the frame as well. I don't know why, but engineers, I'm going to leave it at that. All right, here we go. So we know why we need the screw gun, but why do we need the needle nose pliers? Well, we got to take the spring off of the door boot here. Now we're going to get down in here. Grab a hold of one of the lips on it. And pull it out. Now they do make a tool that will open this up. I have the set, but they're not wide enough. They're for narrower ones, so we just remove that, toss it to the side. We no longer need the needle nose pliers. And now we are one step closer to taking the front panel off. Also, we do need a flathead screwdriver because we gotta screw in some stuff. I'm gonna get back in here so that we can get the door lock disconnected. So we just have to take this one side off. And we have a couple of screws down here. One. And two. And now we're back up on top here. Do not lose track of the screws on where they go, because you're going to have three that are darker that hold that vent onto the cover. Other than that, the other ones are machine screws, and the darker ones are for the plastic. I don't know if you can see the different threads between them, but machine screw, plastic. So that's your one bolt that holds it in, goes into the front. Don't lose it. Now we're gonna pop the cover off so we can actually get it unplugged. And get it removed so we can switch out the board. You do have capacitors in here, so they might be charged. They might hold a little power, so try not to. You can touch the top of them or the sides, but when you get it out, try not to touch the connectors on the back. Alright, now we can get back up on top there. Let our blood pressure go back down so our head doesn't explode. I gotta find that board. Alright, so there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 screws that hold it in. And there's a couple little tabs. Slips right in. And we put the or those windings we were testing on the board. This is where they plug into on the board, and you can see phase A, phase B, and phase C. So these send the power to the motor, and then the motor spins throughout those phases. So once you have it in, all you got to do is put it all back together. Yeah, the fun. So close to being done. So we'll plug in 2 small ones. We'll go to the red one, and we'll place everything up in there. And we'll go to our last one right here, which is for our windings. And everything is plugged in. Shove our wires back in there underneath everything. And we can grab our cutter. We have our 2 little tabs there that go down into the frame of it, and that slides in, and then that bolt becomes the challenge, maybe. Once you get it started, screw it down. We are good to go. Now we're just going to finish putting everything else back together. Remember where your machine screws go. On the bottom you get the 3. And then you're not putting this in yet because that takes the other screws. And this big guy goes right there. So there is a process to putting everything back. You don't want to jump a step or anything. The biggest thing is for the reason of doing the door boot completely last, because of your door lock. You got to be able to get in here onto the side and be able to hook that in to where it goes. And then remember your screws. It is a plastic door lock, so it's going to get the darker color ones that have the coarse thread for the plastic. And then you're going to put your cover back on. Now, the fun part of the door boot. Spring and the needle nose pliers. I'm going to grab that other tool. Like I was saying, I have another tool that helps for that, but to actually get a hold of this side here, and to be able to open it up, there's not enough to expand it, and I can't get it in there because it's just a little too fat on it. So I find it much easier for myself to put the door boot on, and then the spring, as you're grabbing it, pulling it down, I keep my knee there and pull it. Now, bring that spring out, we are all good, and we'll check to make sure that nothing's popping out. So before you plug it back in the power and everything, make sure you hook up your two connectors here, because if you've done this right, you won't have to take it back apart. And that just puts right in there. The big bolt grabs this guy here, and then you have the top one that grabs that guy there. It literally slides in like so, drops in, and then we're going to plug it in, make sure it works. So to get these into nothing but a drain and spin, you have to go to the rinse plus spin. Okay, when you're there, it's going to say 19 minutes. Well, it's because it has an extra rinse. So you hit the extra rinse, takes that rinse off, so it's not actually going to try to put water into it. And we're going to hit start, and our drain pump works. And then we should be able to see. I'll grab the flashlight. Here in a moment, it should start spinning and continue on once the drain pump stops. And it seems to be spinning longer than what it was. So we are good. We're trying to make sure it gets up into a full spin just in case, but I think we're good. Can be a little hypnotizing. We need to put like the circle in there, you know. Alright, so it's been 3 minutes, we're still spinning. It's going to be getting up to full speed here, but we're going to put the top panel back on, and that's as simple as just popping this guy back out while it's running. Hold on to it. It locks in. Should be good. Good there. I'm going to grab the 3 screws for it. The screws that you take out of here, I like to put them in order on how they came out whenever I go to lay them down, just due to the fact that, again, you have your machine screws and your plastic screws, and they go in a certain place. So we're going to start with this one here, which is the bottom one, because that is a machine screw. And now we have our screw for our plastic one there. We'll come over here and grab our plastic one. So now our dispenser's good, and then our other 2 machine screws, which are top and bottom. And then we toss our dispenser in. Alright, so it's gotten up to our high speed. It's been going for 9 minutes now, and it's at full rotation on the RPMs and spinning. So we're going to put our dispenser back in, and now it's good to go. It's going to be a part of a set with a matching dryer that is gas, and that's brand new. So we're probably going to be more along the lines of selling this out in Arcadia to somebody for a nice matching set. Alright, have a good day. Bruno's Appliance. We do repairs. We also have sales. Have a good day.